Hello children, today we will learn about the next endocrine gland, gonads. Okay, now we know that gonads are the reproductive organs. In male, it is a pair of testes, you can see here, a pair of testes, and in female, it is a pair of ovaries, and these are the reproductive organs. Since they secrete or they release hormones, we call it as endocrine gland. So other than functioning as a reproductive organ, it also function as an endocrine gland. Yes. Now we know that we learned in when we were learning about pituitary gland that testes release a male hormone called testosterone. Now we call it as male hormone or male sex hormone, testosterone. But remember, children, a little quantity of testosterone is also present in female. But generally, theoretically, we say in male hormone is testosterone. Naturally, the more quantity is released in male, but it is also present little in female. Same way, female hormone is estrogen, but estrogen is also little quantity is released in male and it has its own specific function. Okay, we are not going into that depth. Now, let us see what the testosterone will do. Now, we learned that the pituitary gland control even the functioning of the gonads. We know that pituitary gland releases FSH and LH, the anterior lobe of the pituitary, which in turn induces the gonads to function properly. Now, in male, you know that it acts on testes and make the testes to release testosterone. That means unless LH and FSH is secreted by pituitary, the testes will not be releasing proper quantity of testosterone. Now, what the testosterone will do in the male? This is very, very active during your adolescent age. It starts getting released during the adolescent or puberty, and it is actually causes everything, whatever happening, the changes in your body at this age. We call it as secondary sexual characteristics. You know that male voice become, it is not high pitched voice in male, the voice changes, it become low pitched voice, and you know that lot of other changes like beard formation of sperm. Okay, this all will start happening during this stage. So formation of sperm, we call it as spermatogenesis. Genesis means production or formation, sperm production. The other terminology is spermatogenesis. So testosterone causes or make it possible that the sperm can be produced. Otherwise, testes start producing the sperm, which is called spermatogenesis. So proper development of testes and the testis production of sperm called spermatogenesis, okay, which is very, very important for continuity of life, you know that for reproduction. So that is controlled by testosterone. So overall we can say testosterone control all the secondary sexual characteristic including production of sperm. Now coming to the female hormones. Now you know that in female the same FSH and LH by pituitary acts on ovaries of the female and make, you know, the effect of FSH is what means it makes the ovary to grow properly and ovary to release a female hormone called estrogen. Now, estrogen, whatever the testosterone will do in male, that is done by estrogen in female. It controls all your secondary sexual characteristic. Okay, all the changes which is happening during the adolescent or puberty, that is menstrual cycle, and change in the shape of the female body and breast development. There are so many other changes in the body which is called which are together called secondary sexual characteristics. So that is controlled by estrogen, and that include even the production of egg or ovum, the female gamete, egg or ovum, and that production is called oogenesis. In sperm production is spermatogenesis, the egg production or ovum production is called oogenesis. So that is also regulated by estrogen, and it has so many other functions. You can go through this picture. This will be shared for you, PPT. So in that you can just go through. One thing I just want to tell you is there is a word called atherosclerosis. That is nothing but, you can see here, it prevent atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is nothing but formation of clot in the blood vessels. which leads to heart cardiovascular diseases like cardiac arrest, heart attack, etc. And you also must be knowing that comparatively to men, the female will get, I mean, the occurrence of heart attack or the heart cardiovascular problem is comparatively lesser in females. One of the reason is that we have a protection, and that protection is done by estrogen. It is one of the function of estrogen, protects the heart from cardiovascular diseases. I'm not telling that it is ruled out in female. Female also can get, comparatively it is less. That is because thanks to estrogen. Okay, so it controls secondary sexual characteristics, protects your heart, and there are so many other functions of estrogen, but mainly concentrate on secondary sexual characteristic and estrogen. Coming to the next female hormone called progesterone, I already told you this is pregnancy hormone, and it is under the control of again pituitary hormone called LH. LH acts on ovary and make it to release progesterone, especially during the pregnancy. That stage it will be developed or it will be released. It becomes active. Now you know that during pregnancy, you know that the zygote or the fertilization happens in this tube, and we know we have learned this female reproductive system in class 8, and this part is called fallopian tube. A fetus or an embryo or a zygote is formed here in the fallopian tube, and it grows down, I mean it develops, it comes down, it descends down, and that embryo get attached to this sac-like structure called uterus. Here the baby will grow, actually develop, the fetus will develop here, which we call it as gestational period. So it has to move from the fallopian tube down to the uterus, and that process is called implantation of embryo. And this will not happen if you don't have sufficient quantity of progesterone. So it is very important, because if it will not come down, the baby will grow here in the tube, which causes tube pregnancy, which again damages the tube, and even it can, it is one of the reason for abortion and other things. This you will learn in reproduction lesson. So implantation of embryo is one of the function of progesterone. Now once the baby comes down, the fetus comes down, baby I'm using for you to understand, the growing embryo is actually called fetus. Once the fetus comes down, it is very important that the fetus get connected to the mother's body, so that it get all the nutrients from mother's body through a connection called placenta. Placenta is the connection between mother and the baby, the growing fetus. And that placenta formation also you require progesterone. Yes, so it helps in implantation of embryo, formation of placenta, and also as the fetus grow, the uterus also will grow. Now the uterus should expand in size. So that is also controlled by progesterone. So expansion and growth of the uterus along with the growing fetus is also controlled by progesterone. So these are the functions of progesterone. Other than that, it helps in many other things like controlling blood pressure, etc. Okay, protects your bones. That is all extra knowledge. Just you can go through it when the PPT is shared for you. But we don't have to learn all that. Just remember it is called pregnancy hormone, and the three main functions of that: implantation, formation of placenta, and growth and expansion of uterus. Yes? Children, the next endocrine gland you are going to learn is pineal gland. You don't have this actually for exam point of view, but since it is given in the diagram, pineal gland is shown, and in the beginning also I told you this is one of the endocrine gland located in the head region above thalamus. I just want to tell you its function. Just one hormone, what it releases and what is its function. Now, pineal gland is called biological clock of your body. Now that means it control your 24 hours, cycle. We call it diurnal rhythm, like day and night cycle. That is controlled by pineal gland. That's the reason it is called biological clock of the body. It will help your brain to recognize the day and night actually. And one more important function is it releases a hormone called melatonin. The hormone released by pineal gland is called melatonin, and this is not melanin. Melanin is the pigment which regulate your color in the body, your skin and hair color is controlled by melanin, but here it is melatonin. It is not a pigment, it is a hormone. And this melatonin actually induces your sleep. It is also called sleep hormone. It induces sleep in you. That means deficiency of melatonin can cause reduced sleep, which we call it as insomnia. People don't get sleep easily. That is because of melatonin deficiency. So melatonin is the sleep hormone. It induces sleep. It will help you to recognize day and night. It controls your diurnal rhythm, and it is also called biological clock of the body. That's all about pineal gland. It is located in the head region. And the next one you are going to learn is thymus, another endocrine gland. Again, it is not there for you in the exam, but it is given. I'm just the diagram is shown, so I'm just explaining. It is the gland which is present above your where the heart is located, just above you can see this thymus gland, and this thymus gland releases a hormone called thymosin. Thymosin. Thymosin is a hormone which actually regulate your immunity. It gives you immunity. And this thymus gland, which actually, now you may ask, you may tell me that okay, the WBC cells give us immunity, but that production and it activation of the WBC cell is actually done with the help of a hormone called thymosin, which is released by thymus gland. And as the age passes, once you reach a particular age above 60, 65, this thymus gland it shrinks in size, completely shrinks in size. So its ability to release the hormone also comes down. That is the reason in aged people you will find reduced immunity. Now you know this in corona cases and all. We say that above 60, the people are more vulnerable to corona. They may get infection. So that is because one of the reason is the thymus gland. It will reduce its function. I mean, it shrinks in size and it doesn't release that hormone called thymosin. So that's about the thymus gland. The last endocrine gland you are going to learn, last but not least, it is the most important endocrine gland, which is called hypothalamus. Now we already learned the pituitary gland is called master gland, but that master gland is regulated or controlled by hypothalamus. It is the super boss of your body. Now you know it is a part of nervous system. It comes under forebrain, cerebrum, thalamus, hypothalamus. And I also shown you many times the location of hypothalamus below thalamus, and it is connected to pituitary gland. It serves as the link between nervous system and endocrine system. Here in this picture you can see this is the hypothalamus part, and you can see the hypothalamus being a part of nervous system. It contains neurons, but this neuron got a speciality. It is capable of releasing hormones. Yes, that's the reason they are called neurosecretory cells. They are nerve cells which are capable of releasing hormone. So they are called neurosecretory cells. And through this neurosecretory cell, through these hormone which are released by these neurosecretory cells, it controls the pituitary gland. It is connected to the pituitary gland. It controls the pituitary gland. And one more thing what I want to tell you children, please have a look here. Now, the hypothalamus is controlling this part of the pituitary gland is called anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. And you can see that whatever hormones are released by these cells, neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus, reaches the anterior lobe of the pituitary through the bloodstream. You can see the capillaries they have shown through the capillary, a network of blood vessels, capillaries, and through the blood, like any other hormone, it reaches the target site. The hypothalamic hormone's target site is pituitary gland, nothing else, only pituitary gland. It acts directly on the pituitary gland. So how it will reach its target site is like any other hormone, it reaches through the bloodstream. But when it comes to the posterior lobe, you can see it did not show. Does it mean that it is not acting on posterior lobe of the pituitary? No, it also acts on posterior lobe. But what you have to understand is this neurosecretory cells which release the hormone, which directly get released here, not through the bloodstream. The end of the neuron, that axon terminal directly end here in the posterior lobe, and then they release that hormone in the posterior pituitary. Now you have learned the posterior pituitary releases two hormone, oxytocin and vasopressin. We have learned it already. That means these two hormones are not produced by posterior. It is actually produced by hypothalamus. Oxytocin and vasopressin is produced by hypothalamus but get released here in the posterior part, and that get released into the bloodstream and reach the target site from the posterior pituitary. That means posterior pituitary is not producing that hormone, only releasing those hormones produced actually by hypothalamus. But when it comes to anterior, only the production, storage and the secretion is done by anterior, only regulated by hypothalamus. Here regulation as well as production is happening through the hypothalamus. That is the difference. Hope it's clear. Next, you will be learning about a mechanism which is called feedback mechanism. Children, it's very, very important for the exam. They will generally ask you this question, what do you mean by feedback mechanism, and give an example for this. Yes, now let us see what is feedback mechanism. What is it exactly? Now, this is a mechanism by which the hormones are regulated. The secretion of hormone in your body is regulated. Whether to release according to the requirement, the hormone should be released. And whenever it is excess in your blood, it has to be stopped. So that mechanism, regulation of the secretion of hormone, is based on a mechanism which is called feedback mechanism. Now, all of you know the meaning of feedback. In parents meet, we give feedback of you to your parents. Or your parents will take the feedback, okay, of your performance in your class from us. You know what you mean by feedback. Now, let us see here what is feedback. Now, already I told you that how the hypothalamus is controlling the pituitary gland. Now, what you people have to understand, I also shown here that these neurosecretory cells are releasing the hormone which control the anterior part of the pituitary directly through the bloodstream. You can see that red dots. That means through the bloodstream it is reaching the anterior part. Whereas I told you the neurosecretory cells, they directly release it into the posterior part. See, the axon ending is ending here. So it is directly under the neural regulation. Posterior lobe of the pituitary is under the direct regulation, under the direct neural regulation of hypothalamus. Overall, you can say the pituitary is controlled by hypothalamus. Now, let us see what are the two types of hormones secreted by hypothalamus. There are many names, children, but remember there are of two categories. One is releasing hormones, one is inhibiting hormone. That means the first type of hormone released by hypothalamus is releasing hormone. What they make the pituitary to release that particular hormone. Now, another one is inhibiting hormone. What is inhibitory hormone or inhibiting hormone will do? If the hypothalamus is secreting inhibitory, the pituitary get a command that stop releasing that particular hormone. So there are two categories of hormones secreted by hypothalamus. One is releasing hormone, one is inhibitory or inhibiting hormone. Now let us see how the feedback mechanism will work. Now I have shown you here this butterfly shaped gland. Tell me the children, what is this gland? It is thyroid gland located on your trachea, on your neck. And this thyroid gland releases a very important hormone called thyroxine, which control your metabolism. Yes. Now, what will happen? Let us think that in the blood, the thyroid is not functioning properly and the quantity of thyroxine is less in the blood. Now, when the quantity of thyroxine less in the blood, immediately that information goes to hypothalamus. How it will? Now you know that every part of your body blood is distributed. So, and you know more quantity of blood will be directed towards the brain, and in the brain most of the blood supply happens to the hypothalamus. And hypothalamus is so sensitive that it can easily sense the changes which is happening in the blood. So, so the blood is giving an information to the hypothalamus that thyroxine is less in the blood. So hypothalamus immediately get that information. Now you tell me what it should do. You know that the pituitary release a hormone called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which will make the thyroid to release more thyroxine. But for the pituitary to release TSH, see here, I have written TRH. This is called thyroid, thyroid or thyrotropic releasing hormone. So what it will do, now this time it has to make the pituitary to release particular hormone. So what hormone will come into play? Releasing hormone will come into play. So it will release a particular hormone called TRH, which reach the pituitary, and pituitary get a command that release TSH. So TSH will be released by pituitary, and through the bloodstream it reaches the thyroid gland, and in turn thyroid gland will release thyroid. See how the feedback is working. Here it is working on a positive feedback. Okay, it is not less, it is making it to release. If it is making it to release a particular hormone, we call it as positive feedback mechanism. So it is making the thyroxine to release more and more. Clear, children? So this is how, so this part is, that part is called positive feedback mechanism. Positive feedback mechanism. Now let us see if the thyroid continuously produce this thyroxine, go on, releasing the chemical thyroxine into the blood. There will be a stage comes where the quantity of thyroxine is excessive in the blood, more than required quantity. Now, the similar event will take place but in reverse direction. Now, this information that, there is more thyroxine in the blood. Okay, so that part is actually again the information go to the thyroid, the hypothalamus, and this hypothalamus will ask or now release a hormone called thyroid inhibiting hormone. It will ask the pituitary now, because it is releasing a hormone, commanding the pituitary now stop releasing the hormone. There are enough the hormones in the blood. So that time NCIH, inhibiting hormone, will be released by hypothalamus, and the pituitary get the command and it will stop producing TSH. It stopped producing TSH. Once it stopped producing TSH, that is not stimulated. So TSH is not stimulating the thyroid. So thyroid indirectly get a command that I don't have to release now thyroxine. There is enough thyroxine. So what will happen? The thyroxine will be, the release of thyroxine will be stopped. Here the stopping, release is stopped. So we call it as negative feedback mechanism. This part is called negative feedback mechanism. I hope you people are clear. If the hypothalamus is making pituitary to release a particular hormone, which in turn a chain reaction make a particular endocrine gland to work more, release a particular hormone, we call it as positive feedback. If it is releasing an inhibiting hormone, which make the pituitary to not to release a hormone, which makes the, in turn make an endocrine gland not to release a particular hormone, we call it as negative feedback mechanism. So naturally thyroxine release will be stopped and the level will be regulated. This kind of a mechanism is called the negative feedback and positive feedback. Totally we call it as feedback mechanism. Children, in your book the example given is pancreas. They have given an example that you had your food and the sugar level is excess in your blood. Whenever the sugar level is excess in the blood, that information goes to pancreas. Now you know that the pancreas release, whenever sugar is high, what the pancreas will secrete? It secretes a hormone called insulin. When it secretes a hormone called insulin, what the insulin will do? You know that. Let me show you this part. Then one more example so that you will understand. Now you know that pancreas, it's released two hormone, insulin and glucagon, and this is the blood sugar level. Now suppose you had your lunch, okay, and you had little extra quantity of rice or carbohydrate, and the sugar level is high in the blood. Immediately that information goes to pancreas. what the pancreas will do? Pancreas release a hormone called insulin. Now, you know, whenever glucose level is high in the blood, insulin will be secreted. And what the insulin will do? Either it will make the cell to absorb the glucose, or it will be converted into glycogen and get stored in your body, which I have already explained to you. So that is how sugar level will be controlled. If it is reverse, if the blood sugar level is very, very low, then what will happen, children? If it is very, very low, what will happen? Again, that information go to pancreas. This is not writing. 1 minute, children. It again that information goes to pancreas. So instead of insulin, it will secrete a hormone called glucagon. Now you know the function of glucagon. Glucagon is secreted when the blood sugar level is low. Just reverse action of insulin and make the stored glycogen to convert back into glucose and thus raises the sugar level in the blood. So this kind of mechanism is called feedback mechanism. Hope you understood.